Hello everybody, today I'm going to explore how childhood development theories have shaped our understanding of human growth, emotional well-being and the counselling relationship. I'll be focusing on three influential figures, Sigmund Freud, Vonn Riechmann and Erikson. I'll look at what each theory contributed, what has since been changed, challenged or rejected, and what remains useful in modern counselling practice. I'll also reflect on how developmental theory enhances our work as counsellors, and where it can sometimes lead us astray, particularly when it comes to transference, defence mechanisms, and the risk of over-pathologising clients. Sigmund Freud was born in 1856 in what is now the Czech Republic, and grew up in Vienna. He trained as a neurologist, but became increasingly interested in the mind and the limits of medical explanations from psychological distress. His Jewish heritage shaped and experienced his exclusion, and he eventually fled to London in 1938 to escape from the rise of Nazism. Unfortunately, he died the following year. Freud developed the first major theory of personality and childhood development. He proposed the psychosexual stages, oral, anal, phallic, latency and genital, arguing that early conflicts and frustrations shaped adult personality. He believed that unconscious drives, particularly sexual and aggressive ones, influence behaviour, and that symptoms arise when these drives are repressed. He also introduced the idea of defence mechanisms, such as denial, projection and repression, which he saw as ways the mind protects itself from anxiety. And perhaps most importantly, Freud revolutionized the idea of therapy itself. Freud is often seen as the founder of talking therapy, and in many ways the first to treat listening itself as a therapeutic act. Many of Freud's ideas are now considered outdated or unscientific. His emphasis on sexuality, particularly in childhood, are widely criticized. Concepts like penis envy, the Oedipus complex, and infantile sexuality are no longer accepted. His methods, such as dream interpretation and free association, lack empirical support, and his model of the therapist as an expert interpreter is at odds with modern relationship approaches. Despite these limitations, several of Freud's contributions remain deeply influential. We still recognise the importance of the unconscious, now understood as implicit processes rather than repressed sexual drives. Defence mechanisms are widely used across therapeutic models. Freud's structural model of the mind comprised of three elements: the id, ego, and superego. The id is the primitive, instinctive part, driven by basic urges and the pleasure principle. The ego develops the mediate between the unrealistic id and the demands of reality, operating on the reality principle and using the reason and problem solving. The superego emerges later, representing internalized moral standards, the idea acquired from parents and society. These three components interact continuously, shaping behavior and personality. Conflict among them can lead to anxiety, which the ego manages through defense mechanisms, thus influencing both conscious and unconscious process. And Freud's insights that childhood experiences shape adult functioning continues to underpin developmental psychology. Most importantly, Freud highlighted the significance of the therapeutic relationship. His work on transference, the way clients unconsciously transfer feelings from early relationships onto the therapist, remains a powerful tool for understanding relational patterns in therapy. Vonn Riechmann was born in 1889 in Germany and trained as a psychiatrist at the time when few women entered the field. She fled Nazi persecution in the 1930s and continued to work in the United States, where she became known for her intensive psychotherapy with people experiencing psychosis. Vonn Riechmann believed deeply in the healing power of human relationships. She emphasized the emotional environment of early childhood and argued that relational trauma could contribute to later psychological differences. She was one of the first clinicians to treat people with severe mental illness through long-term psychotherapy rather than institutionalization. Vonn Riechmann is also notable for helping define a therapist's emotional reactions as clinically useful data. In her paper, Principles of Intensive Psychotherapy in 1950, she argued that therapists' feelings in the room, what we'd now link to countertransference, can be signals about what the client is communicating, especially when the client struggles to put experiences into words. Used carefully, this supports modern counselling by encouraging reflective and supervision, rather than acting out responses. However, she is also associated with one of the most damaging ideas in mental health history, the schizophrenic mother. This theory suggested that certain maternal behaviours could cause schizophrenia. It was not supported by evidence, and it unfairly blamed mothers for the condition we now understand to have complex biological and environmental causes. Despite this, Vonn Riechmann's belief in the therapeutic relationship as a source of healing remains influential. Her work reminds us that even people experiencing severe distress can benefit from empathy, attunement, and relational safety. She also serves as a cautionary example of how theory can become harmful when it pathologizes caregivers or oversimplifies complex conditions. Erik Erikson was born in 1902 in Germany and grew up with a complex sense of identity shaped by not knowing his biological father. Trained by Anna Freud, the daughter of Sigmund Freud, he blended psychoanalytic ideas with a broader social or cultural perspective. After emigrating to the United States, he developed his 8-stage model of psychological development. Erikson proposed that development continues through the lifespan, not just in childhood. Each stage involves a psychological crisis, such as trust versus mistrust, identity versus role confusion, or intimacy versus isolation, which shapes personality and well-being. His work emphasized identity, relationships, and the influence of culture. Erik Erikson's psychological development table summarizes 8 life stages, each defined by a central conflict that shapes personality. In infancy, trust versus mistrust develops through consistent care. Toddlers face autonomy versus shame as they gain independence. Early childhood involves initiative versus guilt, followed by industry versus inferiority in school years. Adolescence centers on identity versus role confusion. Early adult focuses on intimacy versus isolation. Midlife on generativity versus stagnation, and later life on integrity versus despair, reflecting on meanings and regrets. This model is used as a framework, not a strict rule. Erikson's model has been criticized for being too rigid and too Western. The idea that everyone progresses through the same stages in the same order does not reflect cultural diversity or individual variation. Some of his concepts, such as crisis, are vague and difficult to measure. Nevertheless, Erikson's lifespan perspective is widely valued. His ideas help counselors understand identity development, life transitions, and the challenge people face at different ages. His model is now used flexibly as a framework rather than a rulebook. Freud, Vonn Riechmann and Erikson each bring distinct perspectives to childhood and psychological development, offering different insights into how people grow and change across their lifespan. Sigmund Freud's approach centered on internal drives and unconscious conflicts, particularly those rooted in early childhood experiences. He believed that unresolved issues from these formative years could shape adult personality and psychological well-being, giving rise to his psychosexual stages and concepts of defense mechanisms. Frieda Vonn Riechmann placed much greater emphasis on the importance of human relationships and the emotional environment of early life. She argued that relational trauma and disruptions in attachment could strongly influence later psychological difficulties. Unlike Freud, she pioneered intensive long-term psychotherapy for people with severe mental health issues, focusing on empathy and therapeutic relationship as central to the healing. Erikson, also influenced by psychoanalytic thought, developed a broader lifespan approach to his development. He proposed that people pass through 8 psychological stages, each characterized by a specific crisis or developmental task, such as trust versus mistrust in infancy or identity versus role confusion in adolescence. Erikson's model highlights the ongoing nature of development and the significance of social and cultural influences, not just family dynamics or inner drives. Although his theory has been critiqued for its Western-centered assumptions and rigidity, it remains widely used as a flexible framework for understanding identity and life transitions. One theme all 3 theorists share is that childhood experiences don't stay in childhood. It becomes a pattern that shapes later life. Freud framed this through the unconscious. Early conflicts lead to defenses, and those defenses can reappear in adult relationships, including the counseling relationship through transference. Vonn Riechmann approached it rationally, arguing that the emotional climate of early relationships can contribute to later distress, and that recovery is possible through consistent human therapeutic bond. Erikson widened the lens to a whole lifespan, but still places early relationships in the center. Trust, autonomy, and identity are formed through social experiences and carry forward into later stages. So although their theories differ, they converge on the counseling relevant idea. People meet the present using templates built in the relationship, and therapy can make those templates visible, flexible, and less limiting. Developmental theory serves as a powerful tool in contemporary counselling, guiding practitioners in their understanding of how formative experiences shape individuals across the lifespan. By applying the insights of Freud, Vonn Riechmann and Erikson, counsellors can uncover the roots of emotional difficulties, relationship patterns, and coping strategies, allowing for more tailored and empathetic interventions. In practical terms, developmental theory encourages counsellors to look beyond presenting issues and consider the influence of early relationships, attachment styles, and unresolved conflicts. For instance, Freud's concept of transference helps therapists recognize when clients unconsciously relate to them as though they were significant figures from their childhood, providing valuable opportunities to explore and resolve long-standing emotional patterns. Similarly, Vonn Riechmann's emphasis on the relational trauma and the healing power of consistent therapeutic bonds reminds practitioners that genuine empathy and trust can be transformative for those who have experienced early disruptions. Erikson's psychosocial framework further broadens the perspective, highlighting the importance of navigating developmental tasks such as identity formation and intimacy, not just in childhood but throughout adulthood. Modern counselling practice integrates developmental theory with evidence-based informed modalities like CBT, attachment-based approaches, and trauma-informed care. This enables practitioners to respect the complexity and uniqueness of each client and avoid over-pathologizing or rigid interpretations. Instead, developmental concepts are used flexibly, helping the client make sense of their histories while empowering them to reshape limiting patterns and embracing new possibilities. Importantly, developmental theory is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Counsellors are encouraged to use these frameworks thoughtfully, considering cultural, social, and individual diversity. The ultimate aim is to foster self-awareness, resilience and growth, supporting clients to move forward with greater confidence and adaptability. By weaving together the legacies of Freud, Vonn Riechmann and Erikson with modern therapeutic insights, developmental theory continues to enrich counseling practice, making it more responsive, compassionate and effective. In summary, Freud, Vonn Riechmann and Erikson each made lasting contributions to our understanding of childhood and development. Their theories have shaped the field, but they must be engaged with criticality, recognizing both their historical context and their enduring relevance. Importantly, these theories remind us that human development is a lifelong process, shaped by an intricate web of relationships and experiences. While their models provide valuable frameworks, no single theory can fully capture the complexity of individual growth or the uniqueness of each therapeutic encounter. As practice evolves, counsellors are encouraged to integrate developmental insights with empathy and flexibility, ensuring interventions are tailored to the person, not just the theory. Ultimately, the enduring influence of developmental theory lies in its capacity to deepen our understanding of ourselves and others. By appreciating both commonalities and differences, practitioners can foster respectful, effective support that empowers clients to reshape patterns and embrace possibility. In this way, the legacies of Freud, Vonn Riechmann and Erikson continue to inspire thoughtful, evidence-informed practice in counselling today. For student counsellors like us, grasping the principles of developmental theory is invaluable for professional growth. It deepens our capacity to understand clients holistically, recognising how past experiences shape present behaviour and emotional responses. This awareness enables us to approach each client with greater empathy and curiosity, moving beyond surface-level issues to explore underlying patterns and needs. By applying concepts from Freud, Vonn Riechmann and Erikson, we will refine our skills in assessment, formulation and intervention. We'll become more attuned to the signs of transference, relational wounds and developmental challenges, allowing us to tailor our approach and build more effective therapeutic alliances. Moreover, integrating developmental perspectives with modern methods encourages reflective practice and adaptability, qualities essential for competent ethical counsellors. In essence, understanding these theories not only enhances our toolkits, but also fosters the kind of self-awareness and flexibility that underpin truly supportive counselling relationships. And there you have it. Let's continue this journey together. Thank you.